Hello! Welcome to my channel. I am Jask from Poemerlin Cosplay, and today I'm going to be sharing the process I went through to create my Julian wig. Here he is in all of his curly glory. This wig was pretty simple compared to what I usually make, so it didn't take me very long, but I figured I would share the process anyway, since I'm also going to be sharing the process I went through for the rest of the costume. This will be an overview on how I go about styling wigs that are a little more simplistic than others, but regardless of the simplicity, there are a number of tips in the video that I hope you can learn from. So without further ado, let's get into the video. For Julian's wig, I used a simple burgundy-colored lace front wig. Luckily, it didn't tangle too much, so it was going to be really easy to brush through, but I thought it was too shiny, so I wanted to get rid of that as much as possible. To get rid of that shine, you can soak a wig for an amount of time in some water and fabric softener. So that is exactly what I did. I filled up a stainless steel pot with some water and fabric softener and gently plopped the wig into it with the hair all bundled up inside the netting. I was moving rather slowly for this part because I didn't want the water to splash all over the place. It still ended up splashing a little bit, but not as bad as it could have been. I made sure to saturate the wig as much as possible. I didn't want any pockets of air to be left untouched. And then after I was done, I left it to sit for like 5 hours. Usually it's recommended to let it sit overnight, but I did not have that kind of time. But when it was done, I took it out of the pot, rinsed all the extra fabric softener out of it just in case because I didn't want it to get tacky, then towel dried the heck out of it to the best of my ability without ruining the curls. Then I took a hairdryer to it. Again, I did not have the time to wait for it to air dry entirely, so I did the best I could. I was not using heat when I was blow drying the wig. I used cold air, which probably made the process take a little bit longer, but that's fine. After I was satisfied with the dryness, I did towel it off a little bit more in certain areas that I couldn't hit reliably with the hairdryer, and then it was on to brushing. The fabric softener gave it a very nice scent, so that was pleasant, and it made the whole wig a lot easier to brush through, so that was also pretty pleasant. As you can see, it was a lot puffier after I had brushed it out, and you can't tell from this video, but it was a lot less shiny than when it came out of the bag. Pulling up my reference, because references are super important, I started to section out pieces of the wig that I knew I was going to need for later. So namely the front part of the bangs, and then the side where the sideburn is, as well as the little weft that kind of goes backwards towards the back of Julian's head. I made sure to section out those before I did anything else, and certainly before I did any cutting. When I started to cut the wig, I made sure to do it piece by piece, and I was always going downward instead of cutting straight across because I wanted to have curls as organic looking as possible. And if you just cut straight across, you get like these really ugly square looking ends, and I was not interested in ugly square looking ends. I wanted some sort of haphazard, all over the place, dispersed curls. Julian's hair kind of has dispersed curls here and there, so I wanted to go for that without having to do much styling. I did go around to some of the thicker and chunkier curls themselves and cut like into them. Never cut straight across when you're styling wigs, always cut into the lengths. Just like I'm doing right here. You pull it straight and you cut into it, because then you get more of an organic looking feel when you're done. You can also go down at angles, just like that, and then up at angles just like that. Diversify the way that you cut the lengths. After I got done doctoring up the curls that I didn't like, I started to work on the sideburn area. I like to, when I style wigs, I like to go from the bottom up because a lot of things are layered from the top down. So, since things have to be on top of whatever's underneath, why don't you start from the bottom? When you work from the bottom, it's easier to layer things on top of it. So, that's what I do. When I went to go do the front of Julian's bangs, the hair wasn't puffy enough. So, to make it puffier, there's a method that you can also use to make spiky wigs, which I'm going to cover a little bit more in depth in a future video, but for now, a summary is you take the length of hair that you want to make poofy, make thicker, whatever you want to call it, you hit it with a straightening iron or some other heat source, and then you immediately tease the entire area. Once the area is teased, you hit it with some hairspray, and then you leave it to set. In most cases, I leave these sections to sit for several hours, but that's not always necessary depending on how quickly the hairspray you're using dries. Also, side note, do not be afraid to use pins or anything else that you have at your disposal to keep spikes in the right place. When they're drying and after you heat them, they will bend back to whatever position the hair was in before. So, by using a combination of the heat, hairspray, and multiple pins all keeping the shape, and you hit it with hairspray again, it'll keep that new form. Please use pins, use resources. It will save you hours of time. But back to this teasing nonsense. I had teased several sections of the front of Julian's bangs, and I broke it up into 3 sections, just for ease. I didn't have to, but it was easier than doing it in one giant blob of teased hair. I actually let it sit overnight because I was using a different kind of hairspray and it wasn't working all that well. So after it was done and I started working on the wig again, I just brushed out all of those sections and then I started to actually style that area. I used the sides of the straightening iron to apply heat to the part of Julian's bangs that needed to stick straight up. And since there was already hairspray in all of these fibers anyway, it kept its form without me needing to do a whole lot to it, which is also one of the benefits of that whole teasing and hairspraying thing. Makes the hair a lot more malleable to work with, and because there's already hairspray in it, it'll obey what you want it to do a little bit more. And so I went through section by section, very carefully, constantly referring to the direction that Julian's bangs go in my reference there, to get everything in the right position. You'll notice that I use the side of the iron a lot. I don't usually flatten any of the hair. Flattening it can damage the fibers in a lot of ways, and sometimes you don't need a whole lot of heat. You just need a little bit. So if you apply like a closed iron to the side, you'll get a bit more control over the heat that you're applying, and it'll be a lot easier for you to put things where you need them to go. Experiment with heat, experiment with, positions and just the way that you use these things. You can use a straightening iron in a million different ways. You can use pins in a million different ways. Just mess around a little bit. There's no one method to use any one tool. After I got everything in its position, I spent a good 5 minutes going around getting rid of any loose hairs, and finally sealed the entire thing in hairspray once I was satisfied with it.
Hello
again, and thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the look into what I did to style my Julian wig, and I hope that you take some of the tips forward into your own styling experiences. If you have any questions on more specific things I did for the wig that I didn't really touch on, or things that I didn't talk about at all in terms of wig styling, please leave a comment below. If you would like to see more about my Julian cosplay, you can watch the other video I did that goes into how I made his entire costume. I will post links to that at the end of the video as well as in the description. And if you like both of those things and you would like to see more content, please consider following me on Twitter and Instagram at @ohitspoemerlin, or you can be a real champ and support me on Patreon. Patrons get early access to content, work in progress, shots, digital tutorials, all kinds of stuff like that. And speaking of patrons, shout out to Quinn, whose contribution for this month paid for the Julian wig. You have my eternal gratitude, and I love you very much. As always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time and attention. And for more, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell for the next time I upload a video. Once again, this has been Jask from Poemerlin Cosplay, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good one.